look at a class example 5.1. Comes out of October 2010. Hasn't been asked very often, so I think it's only come up like once or twice since. Just simultaneous liquidation. Now, when you read through the question, always read the required first, as I've always been telling you. If they say prepare the following accounts, and you're preparing the liquidation account, then you know it's simultaneous liquidation. When you're doing the piecemeal liquidation, they ask for a table, not an account. Okay, so you'll know very clearly if it's simultaneous liquidation. Then they say James and Linda are in a partnership, selling office furniture. They're traders, whoever they trade as. They share equally, so this is nice. It makes it nice and simple in the profits and losses. For whatever reason, they decided to liquidate simultaneously. So nice if they tell you, but if they don't, well, you'll see now. And they're going to liquidate from the 1st of September. Here are your balances at the end of August. Before you even read the additional information, step 1 is transfer all your assets. There they are. And your liabilities. Oh, there's some more assets. Except for goodwill and bank, to the liquidation account. You are welcome to offset the cost and accumulated depreciation, but I just go, you know what, that just leaves space to make a mistake. So furniture and equipment and vehicles have got debit balances. To get rid of debits, I will credit them. So we're going to, I've put the writing in here because it's really, to write out furniture and equipment is like ridiculous. So debit furniture, 90,000. Debit your vehicles, 120, sorry, credit your vehicles and furniture with their balances. But your accumulated depreciations have credit balances because they are negative assets. So to get rid of those credits, the second journal entry says, debit accumulated depreciation of 21 and 35. Just make sure those amounts, yes. Do not even pick up a calculator. It's copy and paste. Asset replacement reserve, goodwill, I'll sort later. Creditors have got a credit balance, so to get rid of them, let's just tick off as I'm going. I will debit my creditors, so it's in the second journal entry, 15,000. And my inventory and debtors have both got debit balances, so to get rid of those, I'll credit them, 20 and 45. And the rest are owner's equity, etc., and bank I don't close off. So right. So whatever the total is, that'll go to liquidation. I'm not going to total it up. I'm quite sure you can add. All right. Happy so far? It's hard, eh? Let's go and post to the liquidation account. On the debit side of liquidation, I'm going to put furniture and vehicles and inventory and debtors. Those things that had debit balances will go to the debit side. It's as easy as that. I'm going to credit the liquidation with the accumulated depreciations, 21 and 35, as well as the creditors. Did I pick up a calculator? No. Did I change an amount? No. Yes, you may put it in a carrying amount instead. But then I go, yes, if you calculate wrong, you've got a problem. You've got to show your workings anyway, so why don't you just write down the words rather? Yeah, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. So step 1 and 2, close off assets, close off liabilities to liquidation. What about the assets that I didn't close off, like goodwill? It is an asset with a debit balance. So, oopsie, how much is it? 30,000. So I'm going to credit the goodwill and split it between the partners on their profit sharing ratio, which is equal. Getting rid of the goodwill, decreasing their contribution because they're not going to get money for that. Then I'm going to close off my equity. Let's start with asset replacement reserve, 12,000. It's a profit with a credit balance. So to get rid of it, I will debit asset replacement reserve and split it in their profit sharing ratio, credit their capital accounts. Like I say, this is so easy. I've done the account names for you, but obviously you've got to go and learn those entries. Eh? And the current accounts, James has got a credit balance. Linda has got a debit balance. 7.5, 3.5. To get rid of a credit, I will debit the current account and credit capital. To get rid of a debit balance, I will credit the current account and debit the capital. It was 7.5 and 3.5. All right. So what's next? In my steps, I've closed off all my assets and liabilities to liquidation, leaving out bank because it's going to stay a T account, leaving out goodwill because I'm going to write it off, leaving out equity. I first need to clean up equity. Just done that. Let's go and post. Starting with the capital balances of 120 in each guy's T account. James has a balance of 120. Linda has a balance of 120. And let's post these entries that I've just done with you. I'm not going to show the goodwill entry, but I'm going to debit each guy's capital with his share of the goodwill. 15,000 Rand. 15,000 Rand to James, 15,000 Rand. Oopsie, wrong place, sorry. Doesn't matter which order as long as it's in the correct side. And that would be each person's half of the goodwill. Asset realization are profits. That's why they go to the credit side. 6,000 Rand. Just look carefully which one's which, eh? Asset replacement reserve, half and half, 6,000 Rand. Then the current accounts, we're going to not do the current accounts. Credit this guy's capital, James's capital with 7.5. Debit Linda's capital, I'm not going to do the current accounts, with 3.5. Any order as long as they're all there. And that's exactly the same as you would do in study unit 4. Any questions so far? Okay. So now our partners have packed their little boxes, ready to take them home. The auction van has been packed. Now we can move off to the auction. So, leaving those accounts like that, we're going to now say, I have sorted everything. Can you see the only thing I haven't ticked off is bank? So I'm going to just take the bank balance to the bank account later. All right, so now I need to carry on reading. And only now do you worry about what did I sell and how much did I sell it for. So when the furniture and the equipment were sold for 85,400 Rand in cash, I'm going to debit the bank with 85,400 and credit liquidation with 85,400, and I'll give a description. I sold furniture and equipment. Have I picked up a calculator yet? No. Number 1, done. The vehicle was taken over by Linda at an agreed amount of 85. So can I debit my bank? No. But I'll go and debit Linda's capital with 85,000. All transactions go to liquidation. So instead of debiting drawings, which closes off to current accounts, we don't have those anymore, we go straight to capital. Next. All creditors were then paid. So stay in blue. All creditors were paid and a settlement discount of 1,000 Rand was received. So we owed 15. What are we paying? 14. So we're going to credit my bank, not with 15, but with 14, and debit the liquidation. Just like I didn't worry about did I make a profit or loss when I sold the furniture, I'm not worried about the fact that I had another income or expense when I paid my creditors. I'll get the net profit or loss later. Next one. So again, the only time you pick up a calculator is if you have to calculate 15 minus 1. Hopefully you don't need a calculator for that. Inventory was sold for 18,000 Rand cash. Debit the bank. Oops, sorry, wrong page. Debit the bank. Credit liquidation. Do not work out if you made a profit or a loss. A debtor with an outstanding balance of 3,000 Rand was declared insolvent, write his account off, and a 10% settlement discount was offered to all the other debtors. If they paid before the end of September, all of them did so. So let's go and calculate. Here's my debtors, 45. I'm receiving money at the end of the day, right? I only record money and drawings. discounts, profit on sale, loss on sale, credit losses, nothing else. So how much am I going to receive? My debtors are 45,000 Rand. A guy who owes me 3,000 has run away. He's not going to pay me. Credit losses. So that means my debtors are now 42. Okay? I'm going to give these debtors a discount if they pay me. All of them did, so all of them get discount. So the discount I'm giving is 44,200. So the money that I'm actually receiving from my debtors is 42 minus 42, 37,800. So I'm going to debit my bank and credit liquidation. I am not worrying about what I have lost for whatever reason I've lost it. It'll be in the big net profit or loss at the end of the day. And then the last one, liquidation costs of 3,200 were paid. Credit the bank, oopsie, how much? 3,200. Yes. Credit the bank, all transactions go to liquidation. Only recording money and drawings, otherwise nothing else. And if we post, let's go and see. My bank account had a balance of 22. So you'll see in my bank account, the balance is 22. It's favorable unless they tell you otherwise. So let's go and post. Debit your bank. You don't need to know that total. You're going to debit the bank with 85.4 and credit liquidation. Debit your bank with 85.4 and credit liquidation. In bank, I write liquidation. In liquidation, I write bank. So credit your liquidation, 85,400. In liquidation, I write bank. And the next journal entry, oops, wrong page, sorry. Debit your bank, credit your liquidation. Debit your bank. Oh dear, I'm going to have 100 liquidations, aren't I? And that is why you give the description. First one was furniture and equipment. And here was also furniture and equipment. Just posting my entries. Next one was inventory. 18. Or you can write out bank again every time and put the other stuff in brackets. I just said that's a waste of time. Furniture and equipment and inventory. Then my next one was, oh, you keep going to the wrong place. Debit my bank, credit my liquidation, 37,800. Those are the debtors who paid me. Suppose you could use dittos if you didn't want to rewrite it. Credit your liquidation for debtors, 37,800. I've shown the calculation, so I'm not going to show it here again. The next journal, sure, this is hard, hey? Next journal, debit capital, credit liquidation. Okay, so I'm going to go one page back. Debit who? Whose capital? Linda. Debit Linda's capital, 85,000. In capital, I write liquidation. And I'll say what he took, vehicles. And then I go on to the next page, back to liquidation. I credit liquidation with 85,000. But this time it's not bank, it's capital account for Linda. And write that this is vehicles. What else do I have? I have got debit liquidation, credit the bank with liquidation costs, 3,200. Contra account is bank, liquidation costs. And we go to my bank on the credit side. Credit the bank 3,200. Contra account is liquidation. And your description is liquidation costs. Might need to write over 2 lines. Any order, as long as they're all there. And I had another one, pay my creditors, debit liquidation, credit your bank, 14,000. Pay my creditors, contra account is still bank. So I put a description. And credit my bank. In bank I write liquidation and creditors, 14,000 Rand. Okay, happy with that? Have I read all my additional information? Yes. Have I recorded all those transactions? Yes. Have I posted? Yep, those I posted. I've posted everything here. And the liquidation account here is just everything we posted now. I just typed it in for you. Okay. And now we see, did we make a net profit or loss on this liquidation? You've got to add up your debits and your credits. 90, 120, 20, and 45 gives you 275 for your debits. 21, 35, 15, 85, 4, 18, 37, 8, and 85,000 gives you 297,200. All right, so that's your bigger number, right? So big side is your credit side. So you need to split whatever the profit or loss is between James and Linda. Capital account for James, capital account for Linda, in their profit sharing ratio, which is half and half. Let's find the difference. Big side, 297,200. I want both sides to add up to that. The missing number would be the difference between the two sides. I just want to add my debits again. They're not that number. Give it a sec. 90, 120, 20 and 45. And 3, 2, and 14, you know, like all the numbers on the debit side. Silly child. It's still, luckily, the smaller side. So 297,200 minus 292,200 gives you 5,000 Rand. Half goes to James, half goes to Linda. Exactly like you did in the valuation account. Okay, let's do that journal entry. I don't think I've done that one yet. Debit liquidation, credit James and Linda with their share. I've done the liquidation, so let's go and post page back 2 pages to the capital accounts, and let's go and post. Credit the capital accounts of James and Linda. The contra account would be liquidation. I would like you to say, is it a profit or a loss? How do you know if it's a profit or a loss? Where are my selling prices? They're generally here on the credit side, eh? So if your credit side was bigger, that means your selling prices were more than the cost prices. You made a profit. Okay. And, or you can think of it as, well, if it's on the credit side, it must be a profit. Because why else would I be adding to their capital? All right. Last thing. How much do we owe each partner? Balance the accounts. But instead of writing balance carried down, balance brought down, oops, I need another line there. You're going to say bank. So instead of saying balance to be carried down, you're going to say bank. Now, just by the way, can you see why I put a description? Because sometimes there's 2 liquidations in a guy's account, and you need to know which one was the actual profit being shared and which one was just him taking something for his own use. All right, so let's add my credits. 120 plus 7.5 plus 6 plus 2.5 gives you 136. Ooh, minus the goodwill gives you what would have been his balance, 121. All balances will be paid out in cash. Just want to change that color. I don't know what color to use now. I've lost colors. Oh dear, never mind. We shall leave that. The other guy, 120 plus 6 plus 2.5 gives you 128,500 minus 3.5 minus the 15 minus the 85. Instead of getting all money, he took some in the form of a vehicle. So he gets less money at the end of the day. So that is your balance. Those balances will be paid out in cash. They share profits and losses equally, right? Can you see that that is not equal? So in the bank account, let's go and put capital for James, capital for Linda. The balance for Linda was 25. The balance for James was 121. And your bank account better be empty, because just before this, the bank was your only asset and your capital accounts were the only equity. There was no liabilities. So that means your debit side must be equal to your credit side. So in other words, that would have been the balance to be carried down in your bank. So your double entry would be debit James, debit Linda, and I've done the credit in turquoise, 146 to the bank. And that's basically simultaneous liquidation. On the next page, I've got some more accounts that you could have written in, but I didn't see the point of rewriting and rewriting and rewriting. Okay, so you can actually just ignore the next page. So now you're going to try that tutorial.